One more time for old time's sake. What's going on, everyone? It's been far too long. It has absolutely been far too long since I've had the opportunity to say hello to everybody. But thanks for turning out for this oddly scheduled live stream. We will eventually, in all due time, get back around to being on a regular schedule. But as of right now, I'm just happy anybody turned out for this one. What's up? I'm over here on, I got the Rumble one pulled up here for a second. I see Meme and I seen Rookie over on the other one as well. Obsidian, you were over there, and then I can see you over here as well. So yeah, tried to fit in a little bit of time here today because I'll be completely honest, between, illness, the internet going out and all that shit, like July has been a bit, to say touch and go would be, that would definitely be incredibly fucking charitable, mostly because, God, if you've been able to check out, well, if you guys had the opportunity to check out any of the raw video before it gets all edited up and put out everywhere, a lot of coughing and hacking, clearing throats. It hasn't necessarily been pretty. I didn't necessarily want to bring that to you guys, mostly because, well, I have an affinity for everyone who turns out for this, and I don't want to disgust you with all this fucking disgusting shit. So, no, I'm just and Rage. How you were laid up last time you came through, so yeah, no, everything's about 95% back. It's about as good as it's gonna get. But this week, on a personal side of things, my folks, I gotta go take care of their place as well right now because they're on vacation, so I gotta go water water all the flowers and shit, take care of the cats and stuff. So I'm bouncing between both houses for right now. So as of right now, this is about the best time that I know I can confirm to get a stream out for everybody. And there's so much shit that I wanted to talk about, like a couple of weeks ago when Tucker Carlson was absolutely roasting everybody on the GOP stage. Oh my God, I wanted to go through the Tim Scott one, Mike Pence, that's not my concern, about dangers within the borders of the United States, you fucking dork, basically killing off his campaign. That'd be great. So, no, I wanted to do that one. That one's kind of out of time, out of vogue. Then he had a bunch of different Andrew Tate videos that have popped up, and something that I probably got in the back of my mind still, the way that the internet has just, well, I guess it's kind of more or less the conservative pundit sphere, the Tradcuck sphere, the Daily Wire types, the way that they're jumping on Tate and Pearl and now finding a way to try to spin the manosphere or whatever the fuck you want to call that side of the internet into some sort of, Jew-hating kind of fucking degenerate place. And it's like, yeah, it's all very structured around the fact that maybe their political ideology can't really stand on its own 2 feet. So they got to try to tear everything else down in order to make them look good. So that's probably something that I got. I definitely have it soft earmarked for a stream, and that'll be coming up. Like I said, I don't know if I'm going to have much time specifically in order to have a stream over the weekend. But if I do, that's definitely going to be one of the topics. So yeah, excuse me. Let's just see here. Bro, work on your cardio. You're gasping for air after every sentence, huh? Yeah, I don't really read the comments anymore, but me gasping for air after every sentence. Oh yeah, okay. Very interesting the way that you want to put that, but yeah, no, yeah, George, yeah, you know what to do. Just fucking, put him on patrol. But yeah, it's good to see everybody. It's good to see everybody in here. Let's see. Yeah, no, I wanted to fit in here because who said that they were going to be something special? Oh yeah, waiting for Cobra Cast. Yeah, shout out to Jeremy, man. I got nothing but great things to say about the guy. So yeah, no, wanted to get this stream in here so I'd at least have one before the end of July, because I was taking a look at the Rolodex. I think it's like one, maybe 2 streams for July, so at least managed to get it through right here at the end. And we got, like I said, so much shit to talk about. So yeah, and lately I've been watching a lot of United Spot streams. Yeah, turned out ones I got sub from, but yeah, notifications on YouTube are big fucking gay. So I don't even know, like, I don't get any notifications for any of the shit that I do. The only time, actually no, that's not entirely true. The only time that I get a notification over on for YouTube is when I go live on the channel. It sends me a notification for that, and it's like, it's totally fucking useless shit. So without further ado, now that everybody's turned out, because I see that, yeah, no, people are coming through on YouTube. Yeah, we got Dark over here. We got Rookie. We got Meme and everybody else hopping up back and forth. Yeah, so no, non sequitur. Ron DeSantis' charisma is getting a firmware update next week. I sure hope so, because his fucking poll numbers are absolutely through the floor. But we'll be talking about him in the second half, because it probably got like a little bit more than an hour, but we got that entire, because Megyn Kelly actually dropped, let's see if I can get the proper shit up here to begin with, but yeah, she dropped the full interview. We're going to be watching this one 50 minutes long. I got it sped up a little bit, mostly because Ron's fairly laborious. But first thing that I want to touch on today was something that was kind of dropped on everybody over the weekend. Did the video, would that one come out earlier today? Yeah, where the Department of Justice was trying to get Devon Archer thrown in jail right in front of his oversight committee appearance, but no, that ended up going through because the DOJ, in a moment of lucidity, ended up figuring out, it'd probably be a pretty bad look if we were so overt about trying to protect the Biden administration. It's like, oh yeah, no, very, very, very interesting the way that worked. And yeah, he had his closed door testimony that ended up happening. And yeah, so what the big takeaway, what everybody is talking about right now, is basically there was 20 different phone calls that Devon Archer specifically pointed out that Joe Biden was also talking about, or I'm sorry, Joe Biden was listening in on in some form or fashion over a speakerphone or something like that. He was at least in on 20 that he could recall business dealings, specifically dealing with Hunter and Devon and many other foreign entities. But what else is in there? And the Oversight Committee, specifically, their official account, has the big takeaways from the events. So we'll go ahead and read through this thread. It's got, it's got a few points that are on it, and I think that'll be pretty interesting and a good way to start. Okay, this will kill off a couple of minutes so everybody can hop in, so we can watch the interview specifically, because I think that's kind of the main event, and it's mostly just for me, kind of a death knell for Ron DeSantis. Anyways, so Devon Archer takeaways. We completed a transcribed interview with Biden associate Devon Archer. Archer's testimony confirms Joe Biden lied to the American people. What? About what specifically? When he said he had no knowledge about his son's business dealings and was not involved. The critical takeaways below. When Biden was vice president of the United States, he joined Hunter Biden's dinners with foreign business associates in person or by speakerphone over 20 times. Yeah, because that 20 times number has been thrown out, and he was on multiple phone calls. But dinners, that's specific, okay? And that's why we go to the source documents when it comes to this shit, okay? Devon Archer testified that the value of adding Hunter Biden to Burisma's board was the brand of the Biden family, I'd imagine, and confirmed that then Vice President Joe Biden was the brand. There it is. And that the 20 phone calls were used to sell the brand. Access to the extensive network that the Bidens, and specifically Joe, has put into place for him being in the Senate since Christ was a fucking cowboy, for God's sakes. In fact, Devon Archer admitted that Burisma would have gone out of business if the brand had not been attached to it. Does that have anything to do with the Victor Shokin shit that was going down that Biden bragged about when he was on stage? The Ukrainian prosecutor that ended up getting miraculously fired and taken off of any investigation to do with Burisma. Yeah, Burisma would have been taken down if not for the intervention of Joe, which specifically seemed to be done at the behest of the enrichment of his son, all in service of ultimate kickbacks to the Biden family. That's what we're seeing. Because of the Biden's involvement, people would have been intimidated to mess with Burisma legally. Okay, so in December of 2015, Mykola Zlochevsky. I'm a quarter Ukrainian. You think I should probably know how to read those names better, but my familial, I guess that would be the maternal legacy on that one. No skis, skas, or anything like that coming over from Europe, okay? The owner of Burisma and Vadim Poharsky, the executive of Burisma, placed constant pressure on Hunter Biden to get help from D.C. regarding the Ukrainian prosecutor Victor Shokin. Shokin was investigating Burisma for corruption, being... Hey, I wonder why the Biden kid, he on board, he'll spend more time smoke crack than worry about natural gas. Something's fucked up about this situation. Hunter Biden, along with Zlochevsky and Poharsky, called D.C. to discuss the matter. Biden, Zlochevsky, and Poharsky stepped away to make a call. This raises concerns that Hunter Biden it was in violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Oh, FARA. Oh, isn't that what they're trying to get? Oh, once again, just fucking projection. That's what they're trying to string Trump up on one of the charges, which another bit of an update when it comes to the Trump situation. He put out a truth, or he was on social media, whatever, his fucking, his Twitter alternative. I love Trump and all that shit, but just for fuck's sakes, come back to Twitter and make it fun again, okay? Make Twitter, X, whatever the fuck, fun again. But he put out a statement saying that he expects any day to be indicted by the grand jury involving, January 6th with the insurrection talk. But yeah, they're trying to string him up. I think it's on the classified documents case in regards to FARA, so it's hilarious. It's hilarious. You have a blatant violation by the Biden administration, or at least by Biden himself. And yeah, the Foreign Agents Registration Act. It's so fucking funny. They never have anything original. It's just simply repurposing their own accusations against somebody else. Joe Biden was dialed into the dinner in Paris with the French energy company and in China with Jonathan Lee, the CEO of BHR. Then VP Biden also had coffee with Lee in Beijing and wrote a letter of recommendation for the college for Lee's daughter. Yeah, we talked about that before. Everything's categorized in a playlist over on YouTube if you want to go watch that. No one should still be up. Some of the Biden videos, or the Hunter one specifically, got taken down because, YouTube's a fair, open, and honest platform, but everything should still be up on Rumble. Far less organized, but definitely still up there. Archer confirmed Joe Biden was referred to as my guy by Hunter Biden. So what does that mean for the big guy, though? Okay, so... Oh, but who was referencing the big guy? I forget. But anyways, no, yeah, so my guy. At least that seems, fairly consistent all the way through. In 2014, then VP Biden attended a business dinner with Hunter and his associates at the Cafe Milano in D.C. Ellen Baturna, okay? A Russian oligarch. Oh, who is the widow of the former mayor of Moscow's wife? There it is. Was an attendee. Notably, the Biden administration's public sanctions do not contain Baturina. Huh. Interesting, because I think I seen something about Joe Biden walking away. I might be able to actually pull that up here for a second, but I think that there was something to do with Biden being questioned. Yeah, I think he was definitely being questioned in regards to that Baturna chick, and he walked off stage. What the fuck is going on? See if I can find that clip real quick. I can at least... Yo, man, you serious? Let's see what we got. Go ahead and grab this, and then we'll get into the interview. But what's this bitch's name? Baturina. Okay. Okay. Oh, there we go. Oh no, this is last year. Oh, okay. At least them boys got it pulled up. Okay, cool. I got the desktop audio on and all that shit. So, yeah, we can at least listen to this real quick. So, yeah, RNC Research just put this up, earlier today after the text of the interview ended up going up online. So, last year, Mr. President, why haven't you sanctioned Russian oligarch Ella Baturina, who did business with your son? And Biden looks on with a confused stare, but let's just see what's going on.
Baturina, who did business with your son.
I'm not supposed to answer that. Huh? What? No, let me just shuffle off stage. Oh, yeah. Well, if that happened last year, well, it doesn't really look like Biden's deteriorated all that much from last year, but, Jesus, man. Yeah, so, no, this is all just, it's all kind of seemed to be just a big old open secret. Like that whole gimmick with the the widow of the mayor of Moscow, okay? Like, there was always some business dealings that were there that were confirmed by the laptop that was originally Russian disinformation, but has now been verified and entered into evidence and is now a matter of congressional record. And now everything's coming to the forefront. Are they getting ready? I'm just wondering, like, what's your guys' opinion on this? I think they're trying to hedge their bets because they're also seeing those polls that are out there, especially the ones that reference Joe Biden, okay, in comparison to literally anybody that's out there. Let's see if I can find a good one. Interactive polls, is that the name of that? Yeah, there we go. Okay, good. You can see that all the time, but yeah. Echelon Insights just put out their first poll of the season, and yeah, especially up against, Trump and DeSantis. So seeing that Trump is, definitely beating the brakes off of Ron DeSantis, which is absolutely hilarious. Let's at least, take a look at this. So in January, it was just about, it was kind of a pick 'em, break even money, 36-34, Trump up by 2, and then by February, up by 15, and then by 23, and 33. Now by 40 points, where Trump has the plurality against the entire fucking field. It's not looking good. And then, okay, you take a look. Okay, swing states, independents, where is the one that I seen here? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so here's what I'm thinking in regards to the Biden family and the reason why all of this stuff is starting to come out right now, and the DOJ is only kind of paying lip service in order to, placate the king right now, is because, take a look at the numbers, okay? If they can't get Trump off the ballot for 2024, if they can't go up against Vivek, they can't go up against Ron DeSantis, things don't look all that good. It's basically a coin toss against Trump for Biden, which is, we know the way that polls go and the way that they undersample Republicans and overinflate Democratic support. It doesn't look all that good. And then you take a look against Biden against DeSantis, and their numbers right there, it's better. It's definitely better against DeSantis. So they're definitely laying the groundwork in order to get Biden out of there and then replace him with, I don't know, man. There's a whole bunch of things, and a lot of other people have opined on the different conspiracies, whether it's trying to find a way to backdoor in Big Mike as the nominee, or because they've been obviously grooming what's his nuts there over in California. I was going to say Patrick Bateman, but that's obviously the stand-in. Gavin Newsom. They're going to try to bring him in. And I don't know. I don't know how fucking dumb they actually think everybody else is. But just what a horrific Escape from LA dystopia all of California has become, trying to take the governor who presided over that deterioration in such a rapid amount of time. That would be as dumb as if the DNC decided to nominate Dylan Mulvaney because he knows how to fucking navigate a catastrophe. Gavin Newsom, he's going to need some serious rehabilitation, but at least he's charming, at least he's charismatic, and he can go on a debate stage and he can somehow weasel his way through a victory that could be placated and pumped up by the media. He's at least enough of a face that the DNC can run with. As with Biden, though, we're seeing him collapse in real time. The guy can't even fucking navigate a flat-footed stage without having to fall over on his fucking face. And if you've seen the different pictures that are out there, he is wearing his Skechers now 24/7, from the beach to the stage. This guy can't be trusted to stay upright for more than 20 minutes at a time. It's getting desperate. It is getting absolutely out of hand. So yeah, that's why you're getting all of these leaks out for the Bidens right now, so that, hey, at least that they can kind of, stoke the idea that, maybe Joe's not holding on quite as well as we hoped. And, hey, he had a really good term. The economy really turned around. This is what the media is trying to say, even though, don't believe your lying eyes in your lightened pocketbook. But Joe Biden, nothing has been better underneath. His presidency has been the greatest one ever. Nobody can even come close to how many jobs he's created, the way that Bidenomics has taken off, and the fact that he could do all of this by taking 40% of his presidency on vacation. It's just amazing how well he can do. And the way that the media is somehow propping him up like that, and the way that they have the ability to tear down everybody that isn't Trump, well, hey, it leaves inquiring minds to wander. So if they can't officially take out Trump, well, they got some problems. They definitely do have some problems, because the number two, and we're going to talk about the GOP here right now, because, I like Vivek. He said some flumpy shit, especially in regards to the Trans-Pacific Pipeline, and I'd have to do some more digging when it comes to that Twitter space, because he was on one the end of last week with Elon Musk, and they were discussing a whole bunch of different things, and it looked like it was a little bit more of a reasonable, maybe not inflated spaces audience of about 40,000 people that turned out for Vivek, who, depending on the poll that you're looking at, is actually performing better than Ron DeSantis. So yeah, he's definitely benefited from the early campaigning, as opposed to Ron, who's been trying to, appear human. Because I've been playing some clips recently of some candid videos that Ron's been out there, and he is, man, if he just ran the Biden 2020 campaign strategy of hiding away, just putting out a couple of scripted, edited campaign messages, just lobbing attacks from behind the basement door, he might be doing all right. But when he's out there, people are seeing that, wow, yeah, he was a good governor. I think he handled some local media all right. His policies are kind of fine, but, maybe I'm looking at his governorship through rose-tinted glasses, because the way that he's talking now, it doesn't really seem like that guy that was wholly embracing the Trump ideology. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's really not Trump without the excess baggage. Maybe this guy's just really the second coming of Jeb Bush, which those comparisons are definitely start to look more apt as the days go on. So without further ado, and given the fact that we have probably, set the stage well enough, I'm going to grab a drink of water. I just got my bottle that's right there. But first and foremost, I'm going to go ahead and get started on this guy, and hopefully we can get this stuff done in a relatively nice fashion. I know, Meme, you were talking about FNF going live. I think that they're probably going to be going live. If it's not soon, it'll definitely be at the top of the hour. And yeah, this is 50 minutes long. I got it at 1.5 speed right now. We should... To me, it sounds fine. But if anybody just lets me know, I'll at least be able to, hop in the chat a little bit more now that I'm not reading Twitter and, adding additional commentary over the top of it. Still, obviously, going to be adding commentary to this. I'm not a fucking Twitch streamer where I just go ahead and steal an entire interview and go, well, that's great. No, we're going to go ahead and we're going to pause it where appropriate, fill in the additional context that's needed, and maybe, dunk on either one of them, because it's hilarious, because the way that Trump initially made all of his headway when it came to the 2016 presidential or the GOP nominee side was attacking Megyn Kelly. I don't know specifically. She looked like she was bleeding from the eyes, bleeding from other places. Yeah, he made his mark then, and now from some of the excerpts from this interview that I'm hearing, she might actually be on the other side of a floundering campaign, taking down Ron DeSantis when she first broke out, especially made her name in politics by propping up Trump. Kind of a funny turnabout on this stuff. History, to quote George Lucas, is it's like history, it rhymes. So yeah, let's go on this one, okay? So yeah, let me know if the stream goes down. I don't think that this is copyrighted, okay? Like, it's been put out multiple times over on YouTube. So if it does go down, yeah, I don't really want to risk anything on YouTube, so we might go exclusively on Rumble, but that's only if the stream goes down. But I'll be popping between both chats, making sure that that is not the case. Let me know if it's a little bit too fast for anybody, and if there's enough public support for that, we'll lower the speed a little bit. But like I said, I got it on 1.5 speed. Everything seems to be fine. Let me know. I'll be monitoring audio levels and all that shit as well. So yeah, without further ado, here we go.
Thank you for doing this, Governor. We appreciate it.
Sure.
So let's start with news of the day. This week, we saw the plea agreement between Hunter Biden and the DOJ fall apart in court. The judge noted that the agreement as written could give him sweeping immunity for all sorts of charges, including his foreign business deals. This comes on the heels of two IRS whistleblowers coming forward to say that the DOJ repeatedly intervened in their investigation and undermined it. What does all of this tell you about the state of our Department of Justice?
Well, I'll tell you, just give the judge credit. I mean, I thought the fix was in on this thing. I mean, I thought that this would end up going, sweetheart deal, and then they just kind of move on and say, oh, no, we did deal with Hunter. We're not targeting, or we don't have two separate.
Okay, listen, the way that I broke it down, because, I read more than just the headline when it comes to the plea deal. Remember, there's another court appearance that's going to be on August 25th, I do believe. I think that's the specific day. It's at least towards the end of August, where, yeah, they're basically going to come forward. Okay, you guys cleaned up you cleaned up the verbiage that was maybe a little bit too vague, and you figured out if, Hunter's going to be hit with any more additional charges, which... we'll have to see in the coming days what ends up ultimately happening with the Devon Archer testimony, but it really just kind of looks like, yeah, this is just, look, we're being honest and fair on both sides. Meanwhile, a couple of days later, you can just go ahead and sneak the real plea deal out from, out from all of the public perception. It's just like whenever they have a very verbose headline that comes out, a very, very large accusation. It's like when the Atlantic did that to Trump, that he said when they were going over to France in order to pay respect to some of the fallen soldiers, and it was that Trump said, many sources that were on the plane said that Trump didn't want to land because there was rain and he didn't want to get wet and he doesn't want to pay attention, or he doesn't want to pay homage to any suckers and losers that got swept up in the war. And it was like, okay, cool. The Atlantic did eventually retract that after people that were on the flight said that that didn't happen. Nobody paid attention to that. Everybody still ran, including Joe Biden. Well, he didn't run as much as shuffle, barely stay upright, with the statement that, Trump hates the military, which to your own eyes, and you can see every time he has a fucking rally, he pays nothing but his service and he has nothing but reverence for the military. So yeah, once again, Ron just showing that he is just a simple headline reader, and if he can find a way to go, we need to tear down woke ideology, Florida's where woke goes to die, woke, 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 woke. You think he's a fucking YouTuber making up video titles with as much as he uses that fucking word.
Standards. So she's really forced this issue. So I think that's a good thing. But this Department of Justice, they have a lack of curiosity anytime there's incriminating information about somebody that's connected to the DC ruling class. And we see that over and over again. And so in that sense, I think it's they're likely going to try to figure out a way to not hold him fully accountable on this. And that's sad. But I do not expect Merrick Garland to want to press hard against Hunter.
I know you've got thoughts on the Department of Justice and how to get to the root of the problem there. This really concerns a lot of Republicans. I mean, how do you even begin? It's got to be so much more complicated than getting rid of the guy at the top.
True, but you got to understand, okay, how did we get here? We have a weaponized FBI and Justice Department. That obviously is not supposed to happen. But I think part of the reason it's happened is because for decades, presidents of both parties have bought into the canard that the DOJ and FBI are, quote, independent. Well, if you're independent, that means you're not accountable. So they would say, the president can't get involved in those agencies. I
wonder if he knows how the FBI is. Basically, right now it's been assembled at the leisure of the president. It was supposed to be a temporary measure, but, there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government procedure. Yeah, whatever. Close enough.
They're separate. So they've been able to basically do what they've wanted to for many, many decades. And so our founding fathers would have said, if you have sources of power and power accumulates and there's not constitutional accountability, human nature being what it is, they will abuse the power. So like the founders would not have been surprised to see what ends up happening. So the first thing you got to do as president say, you are not independent agencies. You answer to the elected president of the United States. If the FBI is investigating moms going to school board meetings, those FBI agents should be...
see, what's the first demographic that he points out? The myth that the soccer mom is going to get you elected. Dude, they don't like Republicans in general. Those weren't the ones who turned out. That's something I got to take a look at. Maybe if you guys are interested, we can go ahead and do that at a later date. Who actually voted for Ron DeSantis in 2022? Like, obviously, he had a sweeping victory, and the more that I think about it, it's like maybe the DNC really did set up a can for him to crush in order for him to be just easy pickings in 2024 or 2028. Inquiring minds wander, but what were the demographics? Okay, what were the outpolls on that, and who actually pulled the lever for Ron DeSantis, and what are their voting proclivities dating back to previous elections as well? That'd be very interesting. Was it so much that people turned out because they like Ron DeSantis, or was it because, yeah, we like Trump and we're just going to vote Republican because, at the time, DeSantis and Trump were basically linked at the hip until, DeSanctimonious' rise to power.
Fired. If they're colluding with big tech to censor speech, they're fired. If the Department of Justice won't go after BLM rioters, then you hold them accountable. So you have to lean in and be part of that. That is totally appropriate. There's nothing wrong. The DC people will freak out about that because they want that to be their little playpen. They don't want a president to come in and hold them accountable. So just understanding how that works, I think, takes us a long way. You do need a new FBI director. You do need an attorney general who has a backbone that knows if you're cleaning house, you're going to face blowback from the Washington Post and CNN. They are not going to like you. So when you go in a position like that, if you want to be liked by official Washington, you're not going to be able to get the job done. So you just got to understand. I also think we need to break up parts of these agencies and parcel them out in other parts of the country. I mean, take the Civil Rights Division, put it in Oklahoma, take some of these others, put it in there. I think you would end up not having a situation where 99% of the people donate to Democrats. I think it would be much more representative, and I think it would get out of just the toxic DC climate. But we need a major house cleaning. The only way you can do that is if you're disciplined, focused as president, and you are setting the agenda for these agencies to follow.
Now, speaking of government agencies,
no, just gut them. That's totally fine. There's how many different three-letter agencies that are out there in the FBI. the FBI are basically clout chasers because, well, they can go ahead and investigate everything. What they're supposed to do, well, they're supposed to be worried about domestic terror threats, which the DHS does, and depending on what methods and means they're using, well, ATF and the DEA can also come in and deal with that as well. So what specifically do you need the FBI for? It's interesting.
You told Clay Travis this week that you would consider making RFK Jr. the head of the CDC or the FDA.
Well,
Was that real?
I think that headline misquoted what I said. He asked me about RFK Jr. for VP because there's chatter on our side about doing that. And I said,
no, the chatter was specifically to Trump. Would you consider that? And I like RFK. I like it. I think he's a very smart guy. He does a lot of really good things. I think that the way that the DNC is treating him is very bad. It's very bad. It's just like the way that I've been treated by the RNC. But that's okay. That's okay. We're gonna make America great again. Yeah, nobody's talking about Ron DeSantis picking RFK as the VP because let's not get ahead of ourselves. And if Ron DeSantis ever is the VP or ever is the presidential pick, you know his VP is going to be Nikki Haley. You know it as much as I do. Like, come on now.
no, because ultimately he's a liberal. Like, we agree on Fauci. We agree on the medical swamp and how pharma has taken FDA captive. So
yeah, but you guys very much differ on one important issue, something that you used to agree on, but then you flip-flop as soon as, the donor money started to come in, and it involves a certain war that's out there.
So we are going to clean house on that. I've said that from the beginning. I mean, we're going to drain the medical swamp in D.C. So it wouldn't be he would be the head of CDC. That would be a doctor or a PhD. But I'm going to have probably a task force to go in there, hold people accountable for COVID, hold people accountable for what things are happening. So it would be more in that role that I'd want to get a bipartisan group of people together who understand the problem, understand the federal government's COVID response was a disaster that hurt people, that hurt this country. We're still feeling the effects of it now with the kids who were locked out of school. The high prices. We would not have had the inflation that we had they not done the Fauci lockdowns and the CARES Act and all this other stuff. So it was more in that context. So for the CDC and FDA, we will have doctor, PhD type, but they're going to be people like a Jay Bhattacharya from Stanford who was right on COVID, not going to be some of these people that are just part of this revolving door.
Okay, so not the head, part of a bipartisan task force, possibly.
Yeah. What I think the word I use is like, let's sick him on these agencies, to hold them accountable, and that would be part of being kind of outside the agency and getting answers and bringing accountability to bear. We will absolutely do that. That needs to be done. I think I'm really the only candidate that's even talking about that on the Republican side, but I just don't think we can just sweep under the rug what happened during COVID. And it's personal for me because Florida, we fought back against that, and we took the arrows for that.
Yeah, and he's rewriting the history on Florida because do we need to go over that again? I've done that in previous live streams as well. So,
that which is fine. But I think that if we don't hold them accountable, they are going to do it again.
Yeah.
They think that they don't think they did anything.
Yeah, it's going to be climate lockdowns this time around, which, that's another thing that's been making the ways around social media lately. That, that's going to be the next big pandemic that's out there. So, how's the CDC going to end up? Like it's good that he wants to go up against those unelected bureaucratic agencies. That's fantastic and stuff. What are you specifically going to do? Oh, we're just going to have a bipartisan committee. It'll be great. It's fantastic. It's just political talk for just, having a bigger government, which I don't really know about that. How about gutting these places? How about just doing that? How about getting actual professionals that are down there instead of just people that have had the offices, the corner offices, just like Fauci that's down there, okay? He was in the position before he stepped down, before he could face any retribution since fucking early 80s, okay? How about just getting rid of those guys? That would be fantastic. Getting new blood in there all the time with newer, fresher ideas. How about that instead? Or just get rid of the CDC and the FDA. That'd be fantastic. Can we do that? That'd be great. Okay.
Anything wrong. And I don't think we can do that. So accountability means this will never happen again.
Unfortunately, this week, Mitch McConnell suffered a medical incident in front of the microphones, made a lot of news.
Bipartisan cooperation and a string of
I think, what was it? Who the fuck pointed that out? I think that was Tim Pool who pointed it out. I think I seen a tweet from him that said that's what a seizure looks like. It's like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense because we'll just go ahead and because you can just see him because he's obviously he's as articulate as you can get when it comes to an 80-year-old for Christ's sakes, but. Just go
this
ahead.
week, Mitch McConnell suffered a medical incident in front of the microphones, made a lot of news.
bipartisan.
Yeah, so he's talking right here, and then all of a sudden he freezes up and just kind of does the... He goes right back into his shell, and he has to be walked off. I didn't hear anything specifically or pointed after this happened outside of... Later in the day, there was a video posted, everything's fine, I'll be great. Bitch, you're 81 years old. Just fucking walk it off, okay? Like... How many octogenarians are in Congress, okay, or at least in Washington, D.C., that are apparently governing your life, and how well are they doing it? Well, obviously not great. You got what? Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Wheels Feinstein, Mitch McConnell, Joe Biden. Those are all 80 plus club. It's like, and how much fucking power do they have? And they have the audacity to talk about term limits for the Supreme Court, but not for themselves.
Cooperation and a string of
Oh, kind of cut it right there before you could really see the pop in.
Now we've learned that he collapsed at least one other time in recent history. He's 81 years old. We've seen some problems with other politicians around that age,
Term limits.
including our current president. What does this tell you, if anything, about the dangers or the risks in electing people in their 80s?
Oh, this is setting them up for, oh yeah, see, I'm a young man. Well, you're also a neocon, so don't really want that anymore, but okay, thanks.
Serve.
Yeah, look, it used to not be that way. I mean, used to, you kind of serve in your prime and then pass the baton to the next generation. And I think this generation has not really been as willing to do that. Look, I think that we need, one of the reasons I'm running compared to Biden, my gosh, we need energy in the executive. We need some vigor, some vitality. And when I go in on day one,
It's kind of funny with Ron DeSantis, and like he almost sounds tolerable at 1.5 speed, right? Like he almost sounds like he's a regular communicator at this speed, but anything lower than that, like, okay, here, we'll just go ahead and listen to him talk at that one, at that speed right here, and let's see if this screams vim and vigor.
and we will spit nails starting January 20th, 2025. I mean, it'll be day after day after day. We're going to have all the executive orders written before we take office. All the legislation we want will be done. We'll have thousands.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm going to write so many papers and things are going to be great. We need to go ahead and protect the American Republic by me legislating from the Oval Office. Okay, cool. Well, I understand the whole, tete-a-tete thing with Joe Biden coming in and signing, what was it, 21 executive orders on his first day and then another 20 or 25 in the subsequent couple of days. So yeah, I understand, turnabout's fair play, but is that the standard we're going to be setting here? Oh, fucked. Come on, go.
Thousands of appointees to send to the Senate for confirmation. We're not going to miss a beat, and we're going to take advantage of every opportunity. But you've got to be, vigorous. You've got to have energy to be able to do that. And so I think the American people, I do think they're ready to kind of say, okay, let's try the next generation.
You think about, Joe Biden. You're basically half his age. I mean,
he got elected as a senator before I was even born. I mean, think about how long he's been around, and clearly, you just watch him, and it's not good for our country to have a president that's floundering around like that. It doesn't project strength to our adversaries. It doesn't inspire confidence in our allies. And I think Americans look and they want to see a president that they can have confidence in. And Biden is just not that with how he's been behaving.
Yeah, not all 80-year-olds, not all 70-year-olds are created the same, because Joe Biden's been a deteriorating, wandering, inarticulate mess for, decades at this point in time. For as long as I've been politically aware, he's always been the political liability in the room. Like, Christ almighty, he had to drop out of the 86 presidential... 86 or 88? I guess that would have been 88 presidential election, because he was ripping off Canadian politicians. The last good leader of the NDP, okay? Not somebody who I would have ended up voting for, but at least somebody who could command an audience, which Joe Biden, hey man, back in the cut, he used to be a pretty compelling speaker, but now, well, he's compelling mostly because you just want to see how long he can go stringing sentences together before he makes a total asshole out of himself. But hey man, to each their own.
Let's talk about 2024. Right now, according to the Real Clear Politics average of most polls,
You
you're
suck!
anyplace from 30 to 40 points behind Donald Trump. The other candidates catching up to you in Iowa and South Carolina. Your campaign losing a lot of money, according to the reports, and you just fired 1/3 of your staff. So what happened?
Well, no, look, I think that it's not a national primary. If you go
Damn, that sucks, actually. Hey, good for Megyn Kelly for actually asking that question.
into these early states, we are doing very, very
Yo, you can see his brow just lower on that one. You're not supposed to ask me that question, okay? Everything's fine. Everything's great. We've got the momentum, and we've got the promise, and we're going to defeat, yourself.
well in places like Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and that's really what it's all about. In terms of the campaign, we raised more money than both Joe Biden and Donald Trump.
Oh, you spent more. I mean, you're down.
Spent less than Trump, but still, as a leader.
Spend less than Trump. Well, he's also been fighting political lawfare. I don't know why I can't think of the word, but court cases. He's been fighting a whole bunch of them right now. So that's where a lot of his political expenditures have been going, but he's been open and honest about, why he's campaigning for that money, because yeah, that shit's expensive right now, and obviously people support him. But you take a look at small money donations. Yeah, Ron DeSantis. Oh fuck, where did I see that before? But somebody could fact check me if you don't believe this. But he raised what was it? Ron raised $11 million in the first week or so, or maybe within the first few days of him announcing his official candidacy, and then he hasn't even come close to half of that, or $11 million in the subsequent amount of time since that little epoch in time. Yeah, so he got all of his money up front, and then, well, now it's just been a sinking ship. So now he's just going to go ahead and try to rewrite history, and just like he did with, Florida handled COVID the best. Well, actually, when it comes to big states, I'd argue Georgia handled it better, and I'm not no Brian Kemp fan.
Leader, I have a commander's intent, focus on early states. It's not a national primary. If my organization was not following commander's intent, then I've got to make the change to make sure we're doing, what we're doing. So we've done that, and, you're going to see more and more in the early states, because I think that's ultimately what it is. I also understand we've tried to use this early period to put the building blocks in place to be able to turn out people on caucus night, to be able to turn out people for the New Hampshire primary. Right now, over the summer, voters are not making decisions about who they're going to support finally. I mean, this is kind of...
No, but they're definitely disqualifying people based on their actions. And for as much as political pundits, well, not so much pundits, as consultants like to say that, the American people have a very short frame of memory. Okay, most of the stuff is only going to matter when it comes close to election day. As of right now, you and your campaign are turning a lot of people off with the way that you're, kind of comporting yourself, and the way that your surrogates were just spurging out on Twitter, making everybody look bad, and then also running AI-assisted campaign messages. It's like, it doesn't look good for you, Ron, but, best luck to you.
Kind of like name ID and all this other stuff, who's in the news. So we're doing the things on the ground that I think you need to do to be able to win. I can tell you, when we're on the ground in these places, we've gotten an incredible response. We've had more...
Yeah, it's definitely incredible. Going down it's incredible how fast it's gone down.
Legislators in Iowa, New Hampshire endorse us than any other candidate, and probably all the other candidates combined, because I think they see that we would be able to be a strong candidate against Joe Biden. They want to see someone at the top of the ticket that's going to lift up the legislative candidates, and a lot of them have viewed me as that guy.
Well, what do you make? I mean, the campaign itself has said it needed a reset, and that it's doing a reset right now. Are you saying there haven't been problems?
But that's a process part. That's not about message, and that's not about getting out there with voters. That's about how you're applying resources to the campaign headquarters versus the early states. So that's been taken care of. But ultimately, that is not what's going to be determinative in the race. What's going to be determinative in the race is, we need someone that can beat Joe Biden. We need somebody that's going to be a strong leader that has a record of success. We need someone that's actually going to get this stuff done. We talk about things like the border. We talk about things like the economy. We talk about things like dealing with, say, the medical bureaucracy. But we actually have to bring this to fruition. And what I bring is someone in Florida. Everything I said I would do, we delivered on. And in fact, most people overpromise and underdeliver. We made bold promises, and we overdelivered on our promises. And so that's the type of leader they'll get with me.
What do you make of the polls that show, including Monmouth yesterday, showing that 69% of Republican voters think that Trump is the most electable candidate running right now in the GOP, that he's the most likely to beat Joe Biden? That was always one of your best arguments, that you were more electable than Trump.
Well, I mean, I think if you look at these...
Remember, guys, he's like Trump, but without all the baggage.
Look, I take the polls with a grain of salt. But if you look at polls for general election in the key states like Georgia, Arizona, I beat Biden. Trump loses to Biden. I mean, that's been very consistent in those. And if you can't win Georgia, you can't win the presidential election. I'd also point out...
Well, that's wrong, but okay.
He ran in Florida in 2020, won by 3. I won Florida by 20 in 2022. And so we were able to make inroads.
That's not an apples to apples comparison, but okay. How many points did you win Florida by the first time around? Interesting.
Winning 60+% of Hispanic voters. We won a majority of female voters. We won independents by 18%.
Females.
You can't do this with just Republicans. And we did very well with Republicans.
Hey, I didn't say grab them by the pussy. You got to vote for me.
I mean, I think we won 97% of Republicans, but you've got to be able to get independents. And I think we have an opportunity to do like we did in Florida. Get some of these Democrats who realize their party has gone off the rocker on things like education and parents' rights and crime. And so we have a chance to do that. I just think there's too many voters out there. They just will never vote for Trump under any circumstance.
On the subject of independents, a recent CNN poll showed that right-leaning independents favor Trump over you by 27 points. Independent primary voters surveyed by YouGov a month ago said they plan to vote for Trump over you by a 29-point margin. So what's the evidence that you have that independents favor you?
I'm not known nationally as much as Trump is. I mean, so that's why you run a campaign. That's why you go out and do that. That's why we have things like debates. That's why you're in the early states, because you got to introduce yourself to voters. You got to let them know what your accomplishments are, and you got to let them know what you plan to do for the country. And if that just happened the day you announced, then there'd be no need to have to run any of these campaigns. And so, we're still 6 months away from Iowa, and we're going to put a lot of work in between now and then.
So let's talk about that. You do have to let them know. You have to get out there. And you haven't been...
The Iowa polls are terrible for Ron, by the way.
...going out there that much. You've been going mostly to conservative safe spaces. But now you seem to be shifting a little bit more. I saw you on CNN recently. Now you're sitting with me. I'm a right-leaning independent. So is this a change in your media?
She's a right-leaning independent.
strategy, and are we going to be seeing more of you out there?
Well, what I've typically done is, I do media availabilities all the time. I've probably done more press conferences as governor than any governor in history, and all these people can come and
It's because he likes clout.
ask me questions, and so we're going to continue to do that on the campaign trail. We may sit down for some more interviews as we continue to go. I think it's good. I mean, I think people like to hear directly, but the idea that I was not engaging
Apparently they don't.
with hostile media, that's just not been true. In fact, that's kind of how I got known in
As
Florida.
governor, you did. As governor, we were fighting the COVID wars and all that, yes, but since you've actually declared, it seems like you've been in a conservative bunker.
Well, we've done, we have traveling press. We do
That's
the
true.
media availabilities. We're going to continue to do that and probably do more as time goes by.
Don't you think that would help you? Don't you think having a viral moment with, somebody in the far left who hates you is going to be helpful to you?
It could. I mean, it definitely has helped me in the past, and I think a lot of times
Don't you remember those Ben Shapiro dunks on woke college students? Oh, that'd be so good if you could go ahead and do that. Can you line up a room full of feminists and you could just school them with facts and logic? That will help your campaign.
they are in their own cocoon, and so they're trying to propagate narratives. But these narratives are easy to deconstruct, and so if you just know your stuff, you can handle that very easily.
All right, now one of the criticisms I
Not
hear
untrue.
about you from people who watch and listen to my show is he's too establishment, right? You've heard Trump say global.
Oh my God. Yo, somebody needs to get into his ear, okay? Somebody needs to tell him to stop with the fucking creepy laughs, okay?
List, the Rhino, all everybody's too establishment. They think that you're too close to the Paul Ryan, Karl Rove wing of the party, and that if they elect you, you'll be too beholden to the big money donors inside the Republican Party. The numbers
Your
on
evidence
that.
for that is what?
Well, I mean, this is what my listeners feel.
Yo, that is definitely an exposed nerve for Ron. What are we talking about? He hasn't cut her off in any of our other questioning beforehand, but this one right here, oh, he definitely gets under his skin. Anybody that could be on that debate stage with him, fuck, that's coming up next month. Well, or about a few hours time, it's going to be next month, but yeah, I would definitely be hitting him with that because, oof, that's a sore spot for old Ronnie boy.
But I'll give you one. Only 17% of your donations second quarter came from small dollar donors. 82%
There
of
we
Trump's
go.
did. So you can see why they're worried that you're going to be beholden to these GOP elites and not worried about the grassroots concerns.
So first of all, I have not spoken to Paul Ryan since I've been governor. So that's many, many years. I've met Karl Rove once. That's all just totally fabricated out of whole cloth. I also have a record as governor of Florida. I beat Disney on the parents' rights. They're a pretty powerful.
Those lawsuits are still going through right now, so it's to say it's a bit up in the air is interesting to say the least. And yeah, and again, beat Disney. I don't really think so, man. And picking a fight with private corp, yeah, that's another can of worms.
Powerful financial institution in the state of Florida. We stood up to the global elites, not just national establishment, international establishment, against the COVID lockdowns. We stood up. I mean, I've restored the Everglades in Florida. I had to stand up against the big sugar companies who had dominated Florida for a long time. We've stood up to big pharma, not just by trying to get cheaper prescription drugs. I actually have a grand jury impaneled to investigate misrepresentations that they made about the COVID-19 vaccine. So I've stood up to these people more than anybody else has done. How many establishment Republicans would have sent illegal aliens to Martha's Vineyard? They just went.
You did that once, okay? I was gonna say Glenn Abbott. That doesn't make a goddamn lick of sense. But Greg Abbott in Texas, he's actually been sending migrants to different places. That's been causing a stir in Chicago and in New York. You did one publicity stunt, which again, it was hilarious at the time, but you didn't follow that up with anything. So again, he's just a big clout demon. That's all he wants. That's all he does. He just wants attention.
Wouldn't have done it. So I think a lot of that is fabricated. And look, I have the second best small dollar operation in Republican politics. I mean, Trump was president for, so I mean, of course he's going to have a better operation, but ours is growing.
Okay, try to dispel the whole myth that your establishment. Yeah, Trump has the smaller donations. Okay, fine. He resonates more with the blue collar class. I'm second best though. Yeah, but you take a look at everybody else that's around you, and okay, Vivek is a billionaire. He doesn't really need any money in and of himself, and everybody's kind of just, why would I support somebody who's so deeply, deeply not going to win? So it's kind of interesting that, yeah, you want to try to make that a flex, but oh well.
Growing and growing. And if you look at the new donors, these smaller ones, 30% of ours never donated to Republican politics before they came to me. So we're bringing more people in, and we're going to continue to do well with that.
The other question about Trump, and then I'll move on to some more substantive issues. He says this is a disloyal act, and I know you've spoken to that before, but he says specifically that you got elected governor because of him, that you were dead in the race, and that you, quote, came over and begged him for an endorsement with tears coming down from your eyes.
And do you believe that?
Is it true?
Well, actually, kind of, but again, it's classic Trump hyperbole, but this is the same lady who got burned and, who killed her entire career until she resurrected it in podcast form. Yeah, where she stormed out of Fox News and then, took that ill-fated job the fuck was it? One of those stupid ass morning shows. So yeah, hey. Yeah, somebody who gets caught up in hyperbole, it makes sense that she's going to ask this.
Do you believe that?
You tell me.
I mean, come on. This was public. I think we were on Air Force One. I said, hey, I'm thinking about running. Will you support me? Will you tweet for me? He's like, yeah, I'll tweet for you. And that was it. And that was all that. But here's the thing. Politicians have to earn support. Nobody's entitled to support. I'm loyal to my family. I'm loyal to our Constitution. I'm loyal to God. That is where my loyalty goes. I'll work with politicians to try to advance what I believe is in the best interests of Florida and the country. But at the end of the day, it's about who can get the job done, and that's how I view it. And it's interesting. He doesn't say that about his own vice president running against him. He doesn't say that about his ambassador to the UN.
No, he's got worse things to say about them. But again, small fries. Oh, look at that. Oh, he considers me a threat. I've been scrolling through. I've been scrolling through the different polls that are out there, and I find them to be absolutely fucking hilarious. The one that I seen pop up, where was the New Hampshire one? National Republican primary. Yeah, just a whole bunch of shit, and he gets absolutely dog-walked in every single poll that I was looking at. It's terrible. Like, Ohio's absolutely hilarious at this point in time. For presidential election, these are all against Biden. So Trump has a 10-point lead over Biden. DeSantis has a 2-point lead over Biden. Like, it's really bad. It's really bad for them. Trump holds a 52-point lead over over Ramaswamy. Holy shit. So Trump has 64% support in Ohio. This is the Ohio primary. And then Ramaswamy at 12, and then DeSantis at 9. So it's not even break even depending on specific swing states. But I'm going to do good. It's going to be fantastic. 538 saying that, Trump is up 36.9%, so 52.4%. So he's got the majority of the support. So at this point in time, he's just basically picking on the kid who's got the smallest helmet instead of the rest of the bus, or the rest of the short bus crew. So I guess you're lucky with that.
Against him. He doesn't say that about other people he endorsed in the past who are now running against him. He only says it about me because I think he construes me as the only threat to his winning the nomination.
What about when people say it's not your turn? It's still his turn. He got screwed out of his first term by Russiagate and the impeachment. He got an unfair shot at it second time around because of all the election shenanigans, and that he deserves to have this next
We're
go.
a republic. We're not a monarchy. It's nobody's turn. You have every right to put yourself forward. I believe at this point in history, 2024 is make or break for this country. I'm not running to be president. I'm running to do something as president for the country.
Says the guy who's, I think it was filed paperwork for the 4th different office in 7 years. Okay, yeah. I'm not running to be president.
I'm the guy that can win the primary, win the general election, and then deliver on all of these
Again, which primary? Which ones are we talking about?
things, and do it for two terms, which I think is really important, because if you look, Trump's first term, he did a lot of good things. Biden reversed almost everything on day one. I think you do need 2 terms for this stuff to really, really stick. And so I think that I'm the only guy that fits that bill. So I have a responsibility to step up and offer myself for service.
Let's talk about Florida for 1 minute. The Department of Education is in the news this week. They issued new guidelines when it comes to teaching things like slavery. They are teaching its innumerable horrors, that's clear, but they are also requiring teachers to instruct that, quote, slaves develop skills which in some instances could be used for personal benefit. As you know, the vice president made an emergency trip down here to Florida to say you were whitewashing history, that these are lies. Even GOP presidential candidate Will Hurd, who was black, weighed in saying slavery was not a jobs program. What's your response to all this?
Well,
I don't know. Hey, they had a job to do for generations. What are you talking about?
Those standards were developed by African-American history scholars. Many of them themselves were black.
Ew. African-American history scholars. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a white face in those rooms whenever they get assembled, so it's a little bit redundant to say, and some of them were black. Yeah, we know, Ron.
And the point about developing skills was those skills were developed in spite of slavery, not because of slavery, and that's what they're doing. And then they're saying they had skills post-bellum, then they would use those skills as freedmen, and that's exactly what happened. And there's actually been other courses. So the AP African-American history, so we had a kerfluffle on that earlier this year, because there was a lot of the course was good, but then they had part of it that was like Marxist studies, and we said, no, we don't want the indoctrination. So we got attacked because we stood up against that.
You won that.
We won it, but in that course, they had the same basic teaching point about the skills that were developed. So, and this is not something that was just made up out of whole cloth by our working group. This is something that people have been talking about, and this was all done in public. It wasn't political. Like, we didn't tell them what to do. We said, we're not doing critical race. We're not doing a political agenda. Just do the facts. And they did a very thorough job. I mean, if you look at all the things they're talking about.
But what do you think of Kamala Harris coming down here and trying to tell everybody that you're lying, that you've decided to lie to the American public about slavery?
Well, the White House has been obsessed with us in Florida from the time they took office.
Well, consider the source. I know she's asking that, but no.
Clearly, they view us as a threat, and so anything that they can do to try to ding us. But I think in this case, people looked at it, and they could tell she was lying, and she was demagoguing it. I mean, this stuff was vetted. This was all public. People could do comments. Everyone was praising what a thorough job they did, holding the power down, and instead with it. With
these meetings, not saying anything, not objecting to Dr. Al-Anon, and he said the teachers union was sitting there.
Oh my God, enough about the fucking teachers.
And to this very controversial. How can you say they departed? I'm not in favor of the Bud Light thing at all, but how can you say they
here we go. Yes, it's annoying. We're defending necessarily, putting power about it, but as an American, I said I'm not doing Anheuser. I'm not doing Bud Light. It didn't cause the huge thing.
Get it. I know you get it. That of Floridians.
She looks more and more like an alien.
And he said the teachers union was sitting there, lying there like snakes in the grass at these meetings, not saying anything, not objecting to any of this until after it became a controversy. All right, let's shift and talk about Disney. You mentioned them just a bit. You, in my view, are pretty quick to use the power of the state against certain corporations, so you don't like these woke corporations. Disney, after it attacked your Parental Rights and Education Act, Anheuser-Busch recently for hurting the pension investments, you said, of Floridians with the whole Bud Light debacle. Much as the base is angry at these woke corporations, and I get it, and I know you get it, aren't you doing the very thing to these companies that conservatives are mad at left-wing leaders for doing, using government to punish citizens for political wrongthink?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I've definitely talked about this in at least three different Bud Light videos recently. So yeah, I'm not exactly in favor of this stuff, and especially he's just doing it as electioneering, where I go after woke companies. Well, okay, as somebody who doesn't like a big government, and especially a government that's going to go and punish private businesses for as hilarious and awfully wrong as Anheuser-Busch is, wielding the power of the government to go after them because they made a stupid fucking decision. You know what? Hey, that's not a specific, it's not a personal problem for the Florida government. However the fuck you want to phrase that, it really doesn't much matter. But no, it's not your purview. How are you going to try to spin this? I've seen a little bit of this. I used an excerpt of it from either Saturday or Sunday's video, so we'll hear more.
So taking Anheuser-Busch, I mean, we're not punishing them. They departed from business practices by indulging in social activism. That has caused a huge problem for their company, and their stock price has gone down. Well,
you can't prove that. Okay, for as hilarious as that situation is, you can't point specifically and say that they departed from their practices. What did they do? They hired a social media influencer, very popular social media influencer, in order to put a post out there and be a partner. Okay, Dylan Mulvaney, we know all of the shit that's there. Okay, advertise a couple of different times, do a stupid little impromptu TikTok commercial. It ended up blowing up in their face because they were trying to attract a different demographic. It didn't end up working, and it was one of the most hilarious backfires in all of corporate history. You can't say they did that on purpose. Did they want to lose $27 billion in market cap? Was that their purpose, that they set out to explicitly tank their company? Absolutely not. You wouldn't find a judge, unless you put your mom on the fucking bench. You couldn't convince anybody that they specifically went out and did that. So this is just political grandstanding, and something that, hey, is somebody who would, for as long as I've been alive, I've voted for every right-wing party that I can possibly think of. If I lived in the United States, I would be voting Republican, reluctantly for the most part. But still, this is not what I want to see the Republican Party doing. Just attacking private companies. That's not very Republican. That's not very libertarian, lolbertarian, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Smaller government, not further government overreach.
Well, our pension fund in Florida holds Anheuser-Busch InBev stock. So it's actually hurt teachers, it's hurt cops, it hurts firefighters who depend on that pension fund. And so
didn't you support the boycott against them?
No, I did, but that's just as a personal thing. But I mean, we didn't have like the state government, necessarily, putting power about it. But as an American, I said, I'm not doing Anheuser-Busch, I'm not doing Bud Light. But for this, we're defending the people.
That was weird. You made a weird distinction on that one. Oh, mostly because, okay, if you're going to be suing them, you got to prove that, okay, cool, you don't have any personal bias against Anheuser-Busch. But, I just said I'm not doing Bud Light. I'm not doing Bud Light. No, Bud Light. Oh, okay, cool.
That are beneficiaries of the pension. When you go, look, the wokeness, yes, it's annoying. Woke. Yes, when they're trying to throw an agenda down your throat, you don't like it. But it does have an impact on the economy. It has an impact on people who hold stock, and that's not just rich people. That's those people. So with InBev, they departed from their fiduciary duty, and so we're investigating.
Yo, I just seen Ed over there. Yo, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Hey, Don. Been a while. I've been away for a while. Had to go back. I had to go now. But I'll be back. Yo, no, for sure, Ed. Yeah, if you're still in there at any point in time, or if you're catching the replay or anything like that. August, I think I told you guys that up front, but August might be a little bit touch and go. This week is going to be personally pretty busy for me, but definitely, especially in the fall, but no, definitely the last couple of months of summer, should be getting some sort of schedule back, as long as, touch wood, the internet connection is all fine and all that shit. So no, thanks for that. I needed to shout that out for a second. So yeah, it's always good to see. It's always good to see everybody in here, from Non Sequitur to Rookie to Ed to George to Meme to Obsidian to everybody that's in the chat. Thanks for turning out for this short notice, strange day stream, and we can all hopefully not fall asleep to Ron DeSantis.
How can you say they departed? I'm not in favor of the Bud Light thing at all, but how can you say they departed from their fiduciary duty? They sent a beer can to this very controversial person, which upset the consumers, and the consumers had their say. But how is that a departure from their, and how does the state get involved in that?
How is that something that is helping their shareholders or helping their company's value?
Where is that for you to make that moralistic judgment? That's why I fucking hate tradcons for always trying to infuse morals into everything. Again, you may not like it. That's totally fine. You can have your opinion on that stuff. But when you start trying to enforce your worldview on anybody else, that's where I personally draw the line.
How is that for you to weigh in on?
It's not, because I have people in Florida that were injured by the company's decline as a result of that. These are people that rely on the pension. Disney is a different.
Well, that would be your stock pickers for the pension fund. Okay. They were the idiots that decided to go with a company that obviously had signs, because, Alyssa Heinerscheid, she took over for the advertising. She became the VP of marketing back in February, and you could see it with that shitty-ass Super Bowl ad that was right there. If they could have seen the writing on the walls back in the cut, that was definitely a departure from their core demographic. Like, there was no catchphrases over the top of it. There was no chicks in bikinis. There was nothing that would normally appeal to their consumer base. It was basically, okay, cool. Now they're just going to be following everybody else going down the feminist path. Who would have thought the acceleration wouldn't have been so quick with this? But no, that's when you could have came in and you could have diversified and also got rid of, I was trying to think of the, a more flowery term over the top, but divest, there we go. Divest from InBev or InBev stock at that point in time. But no, you just waited again to make this a political campaign talking point. Just call them out on that one. You have them on the ropes. Boy, does he look flustered.
Different issue than this, but we have to say companies should do their job. If they depart from that and they harm people, then you have an opportunity to potentially have recourse. Now, Disney was an issue where they came after the state of Florida when we were doing fortifying parental rights, saying at that time it was K through 3, no gender ideology or any of that in the schools. And to me, that was not a huge leap. I mean, that's common sense. Why would you want to tell a second grader that they may have been born in the wrong body? That is happening around this country, and we said in Florida we're not. So they came in against us, and they're very powerful in Florida. They usually get whatever they want. So we stood up and we said, no, we're going to do what's best for students and parents. We're not going to kowtow to Disney. Then after I signed the bill, they put out a statement saying they were going to make it a mission to see that the bill was repealed or overturned in court. Right. So they said they were taking their corporate resources to basically attack parents' rights in Florida and overturn a core state policy. So we had to then make a decision, and the legislature started saying, well, wait a minute. Disney is getting these benefits that they've had for a long time. Maybe we should reevaluate it. And then when you looked at what they got, unbelievable arrangement that they had that no other individual or no other company in the entire state enjoyed. So Florida, from many decades ago, was joined at the hip with this one company. They started going down the road of sexualizing children. We just could not be joined at the hip with a company that was doing that. That's antithetical to our values in Florida. So what we said is, you don't get to control your own government. You don't get to be exempt from laws and taxes. You're going to live under the same laws as everybody else. You're going to be treated like SeaWorld. You're going to be treated like Universal. So that's actually good policy. That's taking away corporate welfare and putting everybody on a level playing field.
Yeah, those special provisions were definitely necessary during the establishment of Disney World, because it was, in fact, driving a hell of a lot of employment, making a lot of money for Florida. It was definitely necessary. Now, given the fact that there's a steep decline when it comes to Disney World, well, yeah, now you can go back and you can reevaluate that stuff, because you take a look at their park attendance and it's through the floor, especially in recent years. So, yeah, you can go ahead and attack them while they're down. It's not an optical, it doesn't look all that good, but then also you just throw it on top of the fact that it's Disney and everything that they've been doing lately. It's a winning position. But this all started with Bud Light. Why did you want to move away from that? Oh, because that's a losing proposition, because you actually have decent footing when it comes to Disney, as opposed to, just trying to get brownie points by taking down another woke company.
But we could not be, I couldn't look in the mirror as a parent of a 6, 5, and 3-year-old knowing that this company was getting benefits. These are not benefits I gave them. This is many, many decades ago, that they were doing that, given the direction that they're going with kids. I draw the line at protecting kids. We are going to protect our kids, and we will take on big corporations to do so.
So are you suggesting you would have done this irrespective of them criticizing and fighting your Parents in Education Act? I mean, that this had nothing to do with their stance on your law?
Well, obviously, they're supporting sexualizing kids in Florida schools. I mean, they were putting their corporate weight behind ensuring that could happen. So, of course, that was a factor. But that's an admission that they were punished by you, in part by the state, for their political viewpoint. It's not a punishment. So that was part of it. Then they
Sure
had the
seems like
Zoom videos that were put out where these Disney executives were acknowledging that they wanted to inject the sexualization into their programming.
Yes, I understand. That's different. That's less controversial.
Well, but that was part of the decision where the legislature, the support to maintain this arrangement just collapsed. And we were in a situation where we said, okay, this is a company that's pursuing this direction with respect to children. That is fundamentally hostile to the state of Florida's policies.
Okay, but how is it not viewpoint discrimination? We talked about 303 Creative, you and I privately, about the U.S. Supreme Court case that just came down. They held in that case, they reminded us that citizens in this country are free to speak as they wish and not as the government demands. So why can't Disney oppose your law?
They
and why
can.
can't they promote
They
this
can.
agenda in their viewpoint
They can.
without being punished by the state?
They're not being punished. We're just simply removing special benefits that they have had that really weren't
They were worse
justifiable.
off when it was done than they were before they spoke out.
Well, no. I mean, it was, first of all, we didn't
just
actually do
going
anything to
at
Disney.
them.
There was a government that had been in place that they had effectively corrupted, which was not the way it was supposed to be, by the way, if you look at how this started in 68. So we changed the governing structure, which really didn't even impact them directly. They're just indirectly, they don't like it because, they don't get to call the shots anymore. But they are not entitled to corporate welfare. You do not have a constitutional right to corporate
I know
welfare.
that, but it's not
There
about
was nothing-
entitlement. It's not about entitlement. If I go to my boss and I say, you sexually harassed me, and then suddenly he reduces my salary from $200,000 to $100,000. That's retaliation. I am worse off, and it's not a defense to say, well, everybody else at the company was getting $100,000. You've reduced my circle. You punished me.
No, but that's an employer-employee relationship. I think that's much different.
But this is the state taking away a benefit.
But your position is basically that Florida should be forced to subsidize Disney regardless of how it's going to.
That was not what was going on. For a more in-depth breakdown of this stuff, okay, somebody who's been on this stuff ever since it broke, Legal Mindset, Andrew Esquire, he's been doing a lot of breakdowns when it comes to this stuff. I'm not even going to begin to pretend to know everything that he knows about the situation, given the fact that he's dealt with Disney specifically. He knows all the ins and outs of that stuff. So if you want more in-depth analysis on that, go check him out. All I have is just a 30,000-foot view when it comes to this stuff. Like, I know the basic benefits of what Reedy Creek Development District was affording Disney and Disney World specifically, and what Ron DeSantis has tried to claw back. And realistically, it doesn't look like a hell of a lot, and he's just using it as, I beat Disney. Okay, they can't issue bonds anymore, and they still have tax exempt status in certain areas. So was it a win? Well, you got something back that they didn't use beforehand, but okay. But yeah, the way that Megyn Kelly's going after him right now, hey man, big props to her.
Going to use those subsidies so that they can weaponize the subsidies they get from the state and turn it against state policy. Why would we want to subsidize that behavior?
Well,
Why should
here's
Florida
the thing,
taxpayers
though. I get
have to
it.
underwrite that?
But I don't want a President Gavin Newsom doing this to conservative companies or companies who have a more conservative viewpoint.
No, that's exactly what this is. That's setting precedent, and you know that the Democrats are going to do that to begin with. But hey man, I thought that Ron DeSantis was supposed to be the guy. He was supposed to be, the more dignified voice in the room. He wasn't going to sink down. He wasn't going to play in the mud with everybody else. Oh, hey.
Well, here's what I would say. I don't think there's any arrangement in America that mirrored the arrangement Disney had in Florida for many, many decades. I mean, I think it was a unique situation where we just could not justify, how could you be exempt from laws that every other company in business has to follow, an individual? How could you?
Well, was it benefiting on the whole the state of Florida? Again, I'd have to run the numbers back, and that's why I'd say just go check out Legal Mindset stuff on that. Were they a net benefit when it came to job creation? Or therefore, Florida doesn't have specific state income tax, but how does it positively benefit the economy of Florida in general? And you got to weigh that back and forth. So maybe it was justified, maybe it wasn't. I don't know the particulars.
You be exempt from taxes? How could you rack up municipal debt on your own when they didn't have it? So, and they had powers to build their own nuclear power plant. They had extraterritorial eminent domain.
They had a lot of
if you lived in a subdivision
They had it. Did they exercise it? Well, they had it.
Outside of Disney, they actually had the right to seize your property if they wanted to expand beyond the district. So this was something that was just totally, totally unjustifiable. But it lived on in Florida for many, many decades because they were just so powerful. But take apart all of the stuff with the sexualization of children, all that, just on the merits. Was this an arrangement that was justifiable? And the answer is no. But no one really questioned it in the legislature because they enjoyed a lot of political sway.
Let's move on. What's your plan to protect women and girls from men who claim they are trans trying to get into our spaces and our sports?
Well, in Florida, we've done all of that. So,
come on, I need good comedy. Let's stop that. Come on now. Let's stop being such a bigot, Megyn.
Girls' sports, women's sports is protected. Men can't be injecting themselves into those competitions. It takes away opportunities for girls and for women athletes. And we did that years ago here as governor. We've also protected the locker rooms and the bathrooms so that men are not going into women's, very sensitive places. And I think that should be, the rule, period. We will look within the constitutional authority of the federal government. We'll look to do the same for women's sports and those issues nationally.
Title IX?
Yeah, I think so.
Hey, if he actually wants to go against Title IX, not against that. That's fantastic, but that'll also drive down the cost of a lot of other things. Something I've talked about in a bunch of different videos beforehand. But basically, you want to know why universities and colleges tuitions cost so much? It's because they need to hand out so many goddamn scholarships, and Title IX is a big reason behind that. So, yeah, but if he's going to be going against Title IX, that also is a betrayal of the base that he wants to cultivate. So that could just be paying lip service. That could just be one of those simple campaign promises that just kind of gets, pushed away. It's like, yeah, I'll take a look at Title IX. I'm going to promise anything.
There's an ad recently released that was controversial online that portrayed you as a warrior against certain these LGBTQ issues, and Trump is soft on them. The New York Times reports that you were actually behind that ad, your campaign. You definitely promoted it and defended it. Do you think that Trump is soft on this issue, the issue of trans rights versus women's rights?
Well, I think that what was pointed out there was, he had been a pioneer in injecting men into women's competitions, because he was doing that with beauty pageants way back in the day, 10 years ago or whatnot. And then he's also opposed things like protecting locker rooms and bathrooms when he was running. He said North Carolina shouldn't have done that when they did it. So that, I think, is not where our voters are on that. I think our voters, believe that standing up for women and girls means protecting their right to compete with integrity and protecting things like bathrooms and locker rooms. And so, he just was.
No, I just want to expose just how terrible women's sports is. Like, come on now.
Been very clear on that issue, and I don't think that's where our voters are.
Do you think he may have changed? 15 versus now is a lifetime on the issue of the trans rights thing.
I don't know. I think that, it wasn't just that, he had kind of a flippant opinion on it. He was really one of the leaders in making this a big issue culturally and nationally.
Speaking of that campaign ad, one of the complaints I've heard about the DeSantis team is they're too online. There was the Twitter Spaces launch, yes, but it was... Oh
my God, Christina Pusha, Jenna Ellis, Max Lordo, he's got so many fucking weirdos that are his surrogates running the Never Back Down pack. Everybody that's oh my God, there's not one of them that's tolerable. They're all just in full. They're basically leftists riding an elephant. It's so disgusting what they do. Okay, I will never forget one of the first days right after the launch of Ron DeSantis' campaign. Jenna Ellis specifically getting that guy Gavin Wax or something like that. Ended up getting somebody fired from the Buffalo Bee, the Babylon Bee, because he said, "What the fuck? Who the fuck are you? Or what the fuck are you doing, Christina Pusha? Oh, you can't talk to women like that." And I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, cool." Double standard, especially when you have that fucking trad thought Ashley St. Clair out there just spouting off at the hip, and then even in her bio it has "fuck" in there as well. So if it was anything about that, but oh no, we need to protect our queens. Pu.
It's more about the petty Twitter squabbles
language
that we see some connected with your campaign having that will take up 3 days of the news cycle that don't really amount to anything substantive for the voters in Iowa and elsewhere. Is that a fair point?
So look, we have people that are doing this rapid response. I'm not putting my time into it at all. They're going back and forth. There's kind of a battle that does online. I'm not somebody.
I thought that was one of the things that Ron DeSantis was trying to campaign on by saying that, what was it, rapid response? Oh no, that Trump was really bad when it came to delegating responsibilities to other people that he surrounds himself with. What's Ron doing right here? Just deflecting from the poor people that he has in charge of his campaign. Oh, I'm not responsible for any of that stuff. That's not what Trump would do. Oh, he would definitely go in on the people. It's like, oh, you're doing a very terrible job. I think he's a nice guy. He's just very bad at his job. Okay, and then he'd replace him, and then people would say, "Oh, he's just firing people because you can't keep him in place." And that's what Ron DeSantis was running early on in his campaign. But now, because he has so many warts exposed in his own campaign, can't really run on that talking point anymore. Now, can you, Ronnie boy?
Who's following that very closely. It's just not my cup of tea, and so I'm following more about what's happening.
You're the commander.
No, I get it, but but we have people shooting at us too online every single day. The fact that you asked about people like Paul Ryan, that's all a manufactured online controversy instead of a.
No, it's because Paul Ryan, every chance that he gets, is like, oh, I don't want, or it's not quite as bad as Bill Barr. I don't know if you guys seen that. I will jump off a bridge if Donald Trump ends up getting the nomination. It's like, please, I can't vote for the guy, and I can't hop over the border and steal enough mail-in votes to vote for somebody harder, especially if you incentivize me like that, Bill. Come on.
Attacks that have no basis in reality.
All right, but Paul Ryan was running around every single chance that he gets. He's just out there endorsing Ron DeSantis. So yeah, you might not have met him in person, but he's definitely doing a good job of electioneering for you. Not when it comes to the polls, but at least he's getting your name out there on Fox News.
And so there is need to kind of push back on some of this stuff. So I wouldn't say it's too online. I think that there's a place for that. But ultimately, the people in Iowa and New Hampshire, they're not following the latest Twitter war. They're following what's going on in their lives. And I'm very cognizant of that.
You recently signed a 6-week abortion ban in Florida. That is popular with Republican voters. The majority support that. But you haven't yet said whether you would support doing that at the federal level. Will you say so now?
So our bill in Florida protects unborn when there's a detectable heartbeat. The heartbeat bill is something that is rooted in science and medicine, and this is the most significant pro-life protections that we've ever done in the state of Florida in the modern history. So I've been a pro-life governor. I'll be a pro-life president, and I will come down on the side of life. We are running.
Yeah, fantastic, all that abortion shit. So yeah, bouncing between both of the chats here. Does anybody else notice anything weird about the YouTube chat and the fact that it just completely fucking disappeared for me? It's fucking strange. So if anything goes on in there, somebody just keep me abreast of that. But that's just what I noticed right now. So anyways, Ron's talking about abortion. Again, just... I don't know. Like, my opinion really doesn't much matter. Okay, I think the 6 weeks is probably fine. You can probably figure it out at that point in time. But once it becomes medically viable, it's a real human being. And then it also is afforded all of the rights that are afforded to you by the United States Constitution. So, yeah, if we can go ahead and figure that stuff out. And as medicine evolves, then, yeah, obviously we're going to have to go back and rejigger that position. But that's where I'm at, okay? I'm one of those weird guys that thinks that all lives matter. I know, fucking strange concept, right? So, yeah, whenever Ron's talking about here, hey, fucking have fun. And I think that was another snippet that I seen on that. Oh, Ron wouldn't commit to having a 6-week abortion ban, that he'd leave it up to the states. Again, you got to give props where they're due. Okay, cool. He doesn't want to reign as a king over the country. I think that's probably a good thing in general, where you just, you just listen to that weird thing. What is it? Not number 1, not number 2, but number 10, the whole states' rights amendment in the Constitution. Exceedingly rare W for DeSantis.
On doing things I know I can accomplish. So we're going to end the abortion tourism that is in the military. It's an egregious waste of taxpayer dollars. No funding for abortion. We're going to ensure that the Supreme Court...
Well, you know how else you can take care of that? Because not a whole lot of guys... I know the weird definitions now, but not a lot of guys getting abortions in the military. You know what I mean?
Remains so that Dobbs is not overturned. And I'm going to be a leader with the bully pulpit, to help local communities and states advance the cause of life. But I really believe right now in our society, it's really a bottom-up movement. And that's where we've had most success: Iowa, South Carolina, Florida. And I think you're going to continue to see a lot of good battles there.
So you're not in support of a federal law?
I'll always come down on the side of life. And, I'm proud to be pro-life, and I'll be a pro-life president.
But if you do that, if you sign a federal law, making a 6-week standard, the law across the country, aren't we just then going to get a Democrat administration, a Democrat Congress that reverses or that codifies Roe and back and forth? Why isn't it just a states' rights issue?
Well, clearly the states have. I think the states have the primary jurisdiction over it. I do think
they do, but if there's a federal law, that's going to change.
I think there is a federal interest, but I think the reality is that the country's divided on it.
Yeah, I haven't heard like a specific legal breakdown when it comes to this. It might not actually be something that you can federally mandate or federally legislate, so it just might be a superfluous bill. Yeah, it's interesting. I'd have to do more research on that.
You're not going to see Wisconsin mimic what Texas has.
Which is an argument against the federal law.
You're not going to see Pennsylvania mimic what Georgia has. Well, but we're divided. Are these things like on the potential thing? I haven't seen Congress move that. I don't have much confidence that Congress is going to do anything meaningful in this regard. And so in a federalist system, you have different opinions, and that stuff gets filtered out. But clearly, right now, you are going to see different states go in different directions, and I understand that.
And that'll happen unless we have a federal law on it. On immigration, the southern border is a mess. God. It's a mess. In 2022, we had 2.4 million encounters with migrants trying to cross the border illegally. Under Trump in 2020, it was 2 million fewer. It was 450,000. So you've been somewhat critical of Trump on the border, saying he did not complete that wall he promised. But what specifically would you do differently than Biden and Trump to secure that border?
Day one, we'll declare it a national emergency. I'll mobilize all resources, including the military, to go. We're going to stop the invasion. We're not going to entertain the bogus asylum claims. We are going to actually build the wall, because I do think that's important. But we're going to have both Border Patrol and military authorized to use deadly force against the Mexican drug cartels who are infiltrating our country.
I would rather with Trump, we capture any drug dealers or, now he's expanded it to be human traffickers, just don't even bother with the trial. I'd be fine with that.
Down in Arizona, there actually was a piece of the wall there. And I go, and it's like big steel beams, and these guys are working on them. I'm like, what are you doing? They're like, well, the cartels cut through the wall, and then they bring in drugs, and basically Biden just lets it happen. So for us, what I've said, if you're doing that, you got a backpack full of fentanyl on, and you're trying to scurry in, it's going to be the last thing you do. You are going to end up stone cold dead, because I'm going to let our folks do their job. And if you just do that a few times, you are going to see a major, major change. But here's the thing. Tens of thousands of people are dying in our country because of fentanyl overdose. You can't go to a community in this country
Number one cause of death for young people
without running into a mother who's lost a child.
No, excuse me. If you listen to the gay black lady who's the press secretary, guns are the number one killer of young people. Excuse me.
child. So, and we're just supposed to just shrug our shoulders and let that happen. So we're going to lean in against the cartels in ways that other presidents have not been able to do. That is going to make an impact, but we cannot allow this poison to just keep coming into our country and killing our young people.
On the economy, it's the number one issue. Number one, still for American voters. Inflation still remains high. People are really suffering. You're not a rich man. You could be with your education and your background, but you've been a public servant. Milk right now, $4 a gallon. Organic
Motherfucker went to Yale. Okay, let's not, fucking obfuscate from that.
milk, $9 a gallon. It's unbelievable. So what are you going to do about it?
Well, first of all, what's the root of the high prices? The root is government. This is a government-induced inflation crisis. Starting in March of 2020 with the $2 trillion CARES Act, the Fed printing money. December 20, you had $2.2 trillion out the door for Biden when he came in. Biden did. American Rescue Plan, another $2 trillion. So when you...
All the support that's gone off to Ukraine, that you're not talking about.
Borrow, print, and spend trillions and trillions of dollars like that, you are going to get inflation. That's a Milton Friedman kind of, he said, 18 months after this happens, you're going to get it. So that's what we've had. And then you had the Federal Reserve. Not only they print all this money, they said, oh, it's transitory. Don't worry about the inflation. It started going. So now they've been jacking up interest rates because they got behind the ball. So now the average person to buy a home, that you can't afford a new home. If you make the median income compared to the median home price with the interest rates where they are, it does not work financially. It's harder to afford a car. And of course, daily expenses like groceries. So you have to rein in the Congress's spending, which has caused this. You have to increase and expand our domestic energy production. Biden got rid of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, basically. That kind of kept things. It would have been worse had he not done that, put us in a vulnerable position with fuel. But if we open this up and realize we cannot do a Green New Deal, that is going to help impact inflation. We also need to grow more. So right now we're settling into persistently high prices with a very sluggish economy. And our growth rate over the past decade has been anemic. So we got to get growing again. And I think that means getting the bureaucracy and government off the backs of small businesses.
Trump could be indicted.
Yeah, I like Trump's, his solution to that situation. Drill, baby, drill. All right, next question. As opposed to whatever fucking babble that was. We need to get prices down. We need to stop spending. It's like, that's fantastic, Ron. What are you going to specifically cut if you're going to go on that long, drawn-out soliloquy? Give us some specifics, but no, that's fine. I also noticed something in the background, okay, a la Mike Pence. There was either some dust or a fly that was circling his head there for a second. I don't know if anybody else caught that. Might have been too small on the little preview window off to the side of me there, but I could see that because I got my big monitor in the background, so it's just kind of weird. Nobody else finds it interesting. That's fine.
Indicted again today over the January 6th behavior. How worried should he be?
Well, here's what I would say about this Department of Justice.
Oh, God, I remember hearing something about this as well. Oh, Trump should have done more. Fuck you, Ron. Sincerely. Heartfelt.
I'm pledged to end the weaponization of government. I think that they have weaponized these agencies in ways that really hurts the cause of freedom. And it's not just about one person. It's about, do we have a rule of law, or is it just about wielding power against people you don't like? And so everything that happens in this case and others is seen, for me, is
like
seen through that
Light,
prism
like
of a
Disney.
DOJ and FBI that have totally lost their way and have been weaponized against the public. I think in D.C., there's a big problem that we have in terms of being able to get fair trials. If you are part of the swamp, when Durham went after that guy, he got acquitted. He had him dead to rights, but he got acquitted in front of a D.C. jury. If you're not part of the swamp, man, they will nail you to the wall for jaywalking. One of the things I want to do and work with Congress is to give Americans the right to remove a case if they're charged in D.C. federally, remove it to their home judicial district, because I think you get a fairer jury pool. I mean, that's a 95% very liberal jury pool, and in a politically charged case, I don't think it's going to be fair, and that's an imbalance that we have where the swamp protects its own. So people are effectively immune because they can get acquitted in front of that jury. But then if you're challenging the swamp, man, they will nail you to the wall.
So given your views on the weaponization of government, would you commit to pardoning him on any federal charges against him?
Well, what I've said is very simple. I'm going to do what's right for the country. I don't think it would be good for the country to have an almost 80-year-old former president go to prison.
So that's a yes.
It doesn't seem like it would be a good thing. And I look at Ford, pardoned Nixon, took some heat for it. But at the end of the day, it's like...
Fucking say yes, Ron. Fucking say yes.
Do we want to move forward as a country, or do we want to be mired in these past controversies? And I think the public wants a fresh start. I think they want somebody that's going to focus on their issues. We've had a lot that's happened over the last 5 or 6 years. I get that. But going forward, we've got all these issues that we've got to deal with. But I've also said this on ending weaponization. We will wield the pardon power if normal Americans have been targeted unfairly. And what I'm going to look to see, okay, was there a separate standard of justice applied? As soon as the election's over, we want people to apply who may have been treated dissimilarly, and then you can go.
Okay, so you haven't said you're going to pardon Trump or not. Okay, that was one of those things where, one of his other big surrogates that's out there, Dave Rubin, I'm a classical liberal, and I like Ron DeSantis. Oh, of course he'd pardon Trump. But then when first finally fucking cornered on it, oh, the weaponization of the Justice Department, we'd have to look at specifics. I don't think it'll be a good thing. Just fucking say whether or no. Say whether you will or you won't. Just fucking make a decision. God, you twat waffle.
And do that appropriately. And then the flip side of that is, people that are connected to the swamp are going to be held accountable. They are not going to get a lower
What's,
standard of justice.
You said Trump should have done more on January 6th. Like what?
Well, look, I think it's been well documented, kind of his conduct when it first started, how he sat there, could have obviously leaned in harder. I think even his own kids were texting saying, he needs to do more, he needs to do more. Is that criminal, though? I mean, that's the thing when you talk about a grand jury and a potential criminal indictment. I mean, you can identify flawed conduct, you can criticize his conduct, but you have to find a statute that was violated. And I think one of the dangers of what Garland's doing in this is they may be taking statutes from like Reconstruction era that was about making sure that freed slaves had civil rights, and they may apply that to Trump on that. And that's the thing. When you have a situation where there's this political difference, nobody's above the law. I mean, you could be a Republican administration. Doesn't mean you can't prosecute a Democrat and vice versa. But the issue is, if someone robs a bank, we know that's a crime. You rob the bank. If they prove it up, then you're held accountable. To take a statute like conspiracy against rights and try to shoehorn in his conduct on January 6th, that is what's going to cause people to say, well, wait a minute.
What was his conduct? For somebody who likes to trumpet, I've only met Karl Rove once. I've only seen Paul Ryan's ghost wandering the hallways in certain places. That's exactly what they're fucking talking about. Those are their to the T talking points, the Rhino establishment talking points. Trump should have done more on January 6th. What should he have done? More. What was his specific? What were these specific statements or his actions that he did that somehow created the debacle that happened on January 6th? Can you fucking name anything that's out there? No, you're just gonna go ahead and try to shift all the blame to Trump because it looks like finally that message for you to jump into the presidential race for 2024 is coming true. The indictments are coming any day now, Ron. You're going to be the de facto. Trump's just going to hand the baton off to you. You're going to be president in 2024. Don't wait to 2028. Don't look after Florida. Don't cement your legacy as a governor. Hop in right now because the walls are closing in for Trump. You got fed bad fucking information, and the fact that you don't want to just come clean on your failing fucking campaign is specifically the reason so many people are running away from supporting you.
You're doing it, yeah.
Some of the observations of Ron DeSantis on the campaign trail have been, doesn't seem like a natural retail politician. He's not glad-handing with the crowds the way Bill Clinton did.
Glad-handing? No, he's barely interacting like a normal human being, okay? Like I like my Coors Light. He's a fucking robot. He's a strange dude.
That's actually not true. So that's what they said before we started. They're like, he doesn't...
You guys... If you haven't seen my videos from the past couple of days involving Bud Light and Ron DeSantis, he's very weird. He's not a people person. That's totally fine, okay? You might not be as magnanimous in front of the camera as you are in real life. You can see that phenomenon happen, multiple times over, okay? If you haven't seen the litany of scandals that have come across from different YouTubers that are out there where they purport to be one way in front of the camera and in real life they're just kind of weird autistic spurgs, well, guess what? Once I get big enough to do, public events or something like that, you're going to find out that this Don, the Don that you're seeing right now, is the same Don. Probably just, maybe looks a little bit, bigger in real life because the camera doesn't do me any sort of, favors when it comes to this. But even still, what you see is what you get. But with Ron DeSantis, he says all the right things. He's just so nice and he just is so approachable. He has all the answers. But in real life, man, forget the specific, wherever the fuck he was. Maybe it was in Iowa or New Hampshire or something like that. No, it was New Hampshire where he had that very unnatural ha 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 laugh where he was handshaking people, but then the moment that somebody would leave the frame and that he could turn away, it was just stone-faced. It's very odd, and yeah, that's why people just don't like him, okay? One of the big selling points of Ron, the more he gets out there, the more people are going to start to know him and like him. Well, again, just look at the polls, and one person's going like this, and the other person who is actually a real people person, for as much as the media wants to paint him as has not. You need to stay away from Trump. He doesn't like to glad hand with regular people. No, he's actually out there. Who's the one who has thousands and thousands of people come forward to hear him and everybody else that he brings on stage speak, as opposed to somebody who couldn't even sell out a fucking VA? Oh yeah, exactly. The proof's in the pudding. Well, that you like to eat with your fingers.
And do retail. I don't know where they got that from. As governor, I was the first governor to visit all 67 counties.
Does this bother you?
Well, because it's a narrative. It's just not true. I mean, I'm actually on the ground. People, all they had to do was watch what I've done as governor, watch what we've done in these campaigns. But then I think they say, well, Florida's a media state, all this other thing. Therefore, you must not do that. We do that. I mean, we go in all those. So we've come and go. And so we did the New Hampshire GOP dinner. And the party chairman goes to the media. They're like, you guys were saying like he doesn't do retail, he doesn't do all this. And what we saw was the complete opposite. He came in, did a great speech. He took pictures, shook hands with every single person that wanted to do it. He was there for an extra hour and all this stuff. So I think what the media does, they can't criticize me, in a Republican primary on my record very effectively because we've done so much. Politically, we've been a huge success. So they know that. So they've got to try to figure out whatever. So they throw this out there thinking that, I'll tell you what, it's helped me though, because I think what they do is they just lower the bar. So when you go there and do this, people are like, oh man, this is
He's
a great
normal.
guy. He's a great guy.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
so
You can put sentences together and shake hands.
Exactly.
This may sound like a weird question, but there's a reason I'm asking it. The woman who was playing the lead in your favorite movie company Disney's remake of Snow White is on camera. It just got recirculated, though. She said it in 2022. Saying in this remake, we can expect that Snow White will not be focused on true love, but instead is going to be all about leadership.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to
not
be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming
Snow
about
White,
becoming the leader
no.
she knows she can be.
As somebody who's a sitting governor and seems to have found true love in your life, what do you make of that message?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, literally, put the ball on the tee. You can't miss this one, Ron. Okay, I've given you props for what you've been solid on so far. Please, this is the end of the interview. Don't miss the ball. Don't. It's so easy. I've done videos on it. Everybody has done videos on that. It's so fucking simple. Okay, Snow White. There's so many different avenues you can take on that one. Just please make my day and just do a Snow Off-White and the 7 illegal immigrants joke. Come on, just please something.
I think it's partially Disney. They're departing from kind of what made them a great company with their messaging, and they're trying to focus on more social messaging, and I don't think it's been effective for them. And clearly their stock price has had a lot of trouble in the past year or two, and the receipts at the box office have not been good. It's interesting. Speaking of true love, my wife and I, we got married at Disney World.
I can't believe that.
And it was not my idea, and she came to me one day and she said, what about this? Because her family loved Disney, right, growing up. What about Disney? And I'm like, look, if that's what you want, it's your day. I'm along the ride,
my
but
wife.
no Donald Duck at the wedding. That's where I'm drawing the line. We didn't have, and they actually have a wedding chapel. It was very nice and everything, but it's like, that was not anything. I mean, Disney at that time was viewed as still the all-American company.
But how do you see? I mean, to me, it stuck out at me that the notion that you have to choose, right? Like, you can't be both a leader and true love. It's one or the other. And I look at somebody like you, and it puts the lie to the notion. You've talked openly about your love with your wife.
Oh, God bless Megyn Kelly, you weird head shape having bitch. So thankful that you rephrased that, okay? Because Ron, just like a fucking third grader, he gets up there to the tee, and you know what? He completely fucking throws the bat to third base. Like, he missed that so hard just in order to go, hey, I've got a wife, and isn't she great? Take a look. Hey, Hill, come on in here. Let's say a few words. We're such a great couple, right? Wouldn't we look so wonderful in the White House? No, the only way that you're going to get to the White House now is if you buy a fucking ticket. So good job on Megyn Kelly reframing this. Okay, she's just trying to take femininity out of Snow White, the first feature film that put Disney on the map. Okay, she's trying to depart, and she's just trying to become a much more masculine character, which is obviously not going to work. What do you think of that scenario, Ron? Please don't hang yourself further. Just answer the fucking question.
Wife. It's nice to hear, frankly, a strong man and a strong leader talk about his wife a lot and how much you feel for her. But put it in perspective for us.
Well, look, I mean, I'm a better leader because of my relationship with my wife.
Oh, fuck
I'm a better
off.
leader because I have somebody that's my best friend and the love of my life.
I hate you.
It works
I
hand in
hate you
hand for
so
me. The idea
much.
that you have to choose is totally ridiculous. And she's been somebody who has gone through trials and tribulations with having breast cancer and things like that. And my job as a husband is you're there, good times and bad, and sickness and in health. And so I was governor and I had to do the job for the state. But I'd be here on the weekends. I'm here as soon as I get back during the weekdays. I'm here helping her through that because it's not an easy thing to go through, and she handled it very well. And she was not facing a good situation, so she handled it very well. But that's just my role. That's my job. I need to be there.
The fact that she was dealing with this 2 years ago, just 2 years ago, and is back on her feet and is
that's fantastic. Casey DeSantis, congratulations on your recovery. Okay, that's so fantastic and wonderful. Okay, great stuff. Okay, Jesus Christ. Oh my God, that one hurt. Okay, like the Piers Morgan one did that breakdown, and okay, Ron, you were a little bit disingenuous when it comes to certain topics that came up, but overall that one was way better than this. And Megyn Kelly, hell of a good interview this time around, but Ron, every fucking easy answer that was right there, you managed to fucking foul it off and hit yourself in the cup. It's incredible. And you wonder why the guy is dying in the fucking polls. You reap what you sow. You absolutely do. What a fucking dork, man. But I think that's the end of it. I don't need to hear about him waffle about, have you seen how great my wife is? Yeah, we know. You can't go more than like 2 sentences together without bringing the bitch up, okay? Fantastic. Love that you love your wife. We're not voting for her. You never vote for her. She's terrible. anyways, I'm just gonna go ahead and peruse the chats, make sure everything's great. Age is hitting her like Mjolnir. Yo, blow right, yeah, blow right, yeah, good no for sure. I'll be here all week. Yeah, hey, I get no respect. Bring up Mjolnir. God damn it. Anyways, yeah. Who else we got in here? Cool. No, yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for turning out on this one. This is fantastic shit. And Scott McGinnis, we got non sequitur and all this stuff. Yeah, it's a Ron world after all. Fucking hilarious. No, man, what a waste of Sirius bandwidth. There's been nothing good to listen to on Sirius since you could actually run it back further, but I would say to the dissolution of O&A, which again, the self-admitted old school fan of. Show probably died with Patrice O'Neill, but even still, there were some good highlights towards the end. But yeah, good on Megyn Kelly for exposing just the absolute, like, there's no substance behind what Ron DeSantis talks, what his positions are. Like, he knows his talking points, he just doesn't know how he's going to be getting there. Typical politician. That's what everybody tuned out from to begin with, and now, well, hey man, he's exposing his colors and not realizing he's not evolving with the times. At the Republican base right now, yeah, it's a shift. It's no longer the Bush. It's no longer the Bush-Cheney cabal that was there for ever so long, that continued to just lose with the dignity, from the Mitt Romneys to the John McCains. That is done and dusted. All of your political heroes that are out there, the HWs, they're gone. Thank fucking God. There are many countries and cultures in the Middle East that are definitely thankful for that revelation. But man, you're a man out of time. Your politics and your healthy, happy relationship would have been much more prosperous if this was the 1950s. But guess what? It's the 2020s, and the world right now. I was just going to say the country, but the world at large right now needs a fighter. They don't need somebody who's just going to go, well, isn't my wife great? Take my wife, please. Oh, just fucking shut up, Ron. You're goddamn embarrassment. So thanks to everybody for turning out on this one. Like I said, weird day, weird time. But hopefully, now that the internet is, that just sucked, honestly. Like, I was so ready to do a nice stream. That was probably about the time when we were going to do the Tucker basically kills off the rest of the GOP. It was probably about the time when the internet, for myself, went all flumpy and then got sick after that, which didn't really help. But yeah, voice is holding up pretty fine. So as long as the personal stuff doesn't take over all that much, we should be back towards the end of the week, or at least over on the weekend. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see, because I got a bunch of ideas for different stream topics. So yeah, hopefully we should have something a little bit more consistent. So shout out to everybody for coming out on this one final time. Rookie, non sequitur, Scott, Meme, George, Meadows. Is that who's over there? Yeah. Or I'm sorry, don't mean to dead name you anymore. Mary Jane, of course. CDP. Hey, CDP, shout out. Seen you post in the chat. If you're still kicking around, hopefully everything's great. So yeah, no, for sure, guys. So yeah, next one, maybe Saturday, maybe Sunday. It'll definitely be something. It'll definitely be something on that. So thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.